Alright, good morning, guys. So, today is the first day of the 12 concept videos. I don't have a paper pamphlet for it, and this is not going to be really rough like those other ones. I'm not going to be trashing uh, treatment centers the entire video. And I'm going to try and make them shorter than they were. Like, I was 2.5 hours in on that last 12 tradition video, just trashing everyone. Fuck, it got bad. Uh, it's needed information, but it could have probably done without all that trashing. So I do have a book though that's Alcoholics Anonymous Comes of Age. It does talk about 12 concepts in this book, but it's really scattered and it's all over. So like this book isn't going to help necessarily help describe what the concepts are for. But I did I asked Grok what would be the best to read out of this for concept one, and it gave me a couple pages here. So we're learning together with this. I don't really have a predetermined idea on what these concepts are. My overall understanding of what they are for is just I guess I'll read it. We'll start off just by reading, and I'm going to try and stay on point. I'm not going to like trash stuff. A little side note though, I was making daily reflection videos. It was like 2 years ago, maybe more, maybe I can't remember. But my beginning journey of content creation, I started making just for today videos. Back when I was still going to NA and Grand Prairie and stuff, and it was pretty cool. You can see like the development of my content creation, and in all reality, like what I was making for the daily reflections videos is pretty good. It took a lot of work, but I was using I wasn't doing AI generation at first. A lot of it was like I was paying a program for to use stock video and stuff, and then clipping it in and stuff. But it was all a learning process. So I'm gonna do now from the 28th on. There's gonna be one daily reflection video, consistent at least for a while. I'm not gonna fall behind because I have them already all made. You can check them out on Addict to Influencer on YouTube if you want. Addict with the number 2 influencer. Anyways, so it gave me some pages we're going to read out of here for concept 1. Here's the 12 concepts, page 574 of the big book. Because like I'm doing this part. This is essentially to help me understand more about it, and also to get ahead of, I don't know what people do when because I've heard people talk about the 12 concepts in the rooms, and being as they have zero like almost literally no understanding of the traditions when everybody's like trying to talk like they know what they're trying to collect all that praise and stuff. They have no understanding of the traditions, and I know that for a fact because I do know. Like if you watch those videos, we went through every one of them, and now I know a lot more even. Not yeah, I do actually. I know I know more context. I knew like essentially what they're for before, but now I know more context of like how it came about and stuff. Like the need for them and like the reasoning. So every tradition where it was developed through a hard won experience, meaning it was trial and error. They had no idea they needed them in the ways that they did. They just landed on 12 because I'm assuming it suited 12 steps, right? I wish they never did that. I really wish they never did 12 of them. I wish they would have done 20 or 8 or something, and then this confusion wouldn't be what it is today. There would probably be another version of confusion, but it would be quite a bit more difficult for people to do what they do had they made it different amounts of putting them 12 steps and 12 traditions on the wall is pretty easy for people to manipulate, because in the programs when you go into it you have the 12 steps and the 12 traditions at every meeting, whether it be NA or AA or CA or whatever, and CMA. Yeah, you have the 12 steps and then the 12 traditions as kind of a structural meeting format. In order to create a meeting, you don't need that. You don't need anything. All you need is two or more alcoholics gathered together may call themselves an AA group, provided there is no other affiliation. So you don't even need this book. If you want to gather and chat recovery and call yourself AA, you can. And then if you start gathering with more people and you guys want to collect together, then you get this book, you get some literature, you get some understanding on how the meetings are ran, and the 12 traditions help you get that. Then you follow the 12 traditions that are in this book. If you need any guidance, I can help explain anything. But you can start a meeting anytime, anywhere. You don't need to rent a place. If your meeting starts getting traction and you don't want a bunch of people always in your house, then you obviously you're gonna want to rent a place. It's more official too. But the meetings did start in people's houses. So if you have a garage, if you have a shed, and you just want to have an AA meeting, fire one off. You can. Just follow those 12 traditions. If you have, and this is for people who don't have like access to stuff. If you have a phone, I guess if you can watch this, you can get the 12 traditions from AA online. But you don't. The only thing you need to follow is those 12 traditions for your AA group. There is recommendations you can use from AA.org, but you don't have to follow any sort of structure, otherwise none of this would be here. There's people in third world countries, there's people like they don't have access to resources or literature or anything. They could sit there with a pamphlet and they could just get amazing meetings off the ground, and that's the power behind it. It's able to spread worldwide. It doesn't need dictate. It actually is not allowed dictation. So, and the 12 concepts. That's what the 12 concepts is. The structure. My understanding. So I could be wrong, but I know it also encapsulates this. Is they were so when AA started spreading worldwide, they did need extra structure and extra structure and extra kind of like business and actual legal format. If America is going to be associated with other countries and this is going to work proper, I'm assuming they needed actual legal format in order to navigate all that and in order to help that like get spread to other countries and stuff. So like I'm assuming we're probably going to learn all about it, but I'm assuming AA helped, like AA in America helped with their resources that they had collected through the 7th tradition to spread to other countries, including Canada. Or well, I mean Canada, we kind of just follow what America does. We kind of just they're the cool kids and we're going to do what they're doing, right? So regardless, AA was going to happen in Canada, and it even talks about Canada in the 12 concepts, or in this book, AA Comes of Age. So Canada is a big part of helping AA get off the ground, actually, probably worldwide. So unfortunately now, I know for a fact Alberta is one of the worst things we're doing one of the worst things that's ever happened to AA and NA. Alberta is hands down collectively doing one of the worst things that could ever happen to these programs, or some of the worst things. So 12 concepts, page 574. Again, I'm assuming these are the structure that help us spread to the world. And when you're going international, you do actually need physical, legal. Otherwise, the country's going to be like, piss off. If you, well, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. But I'm assuming if we want to be like in cooperation country to country, there would be like country legalities. Well, I guess we're going to find out. I do love learning about this shit. Because like, if people are actually passionate about it, and instead of just trying to like appear as if they know more than each other, you would set aside, or you would fight, I guess, through that cognitive dissonance of learning about the program that you have been fed such disinformation about. It won't be easy. That's why I'm doing these videos. And it's no one person's fault. However, there are a lot of people intentionally taking part in the disinformation for personal financial gain or personal popularity. And the latter is even more pathetic than the fucking financial gain itself. Anyway, so we got 12 concept short form. AA's 12 steps are principles for personal recovery. 12 traditions ensure the unity of the fellowship. Written by co-founder Bill W. in 1962, the 12 concepts for world service provide a group of related principles to help ensure that various elements of AA service structure remains responsive and responsible to those they serve. This is the short form of the concepts, which follows, was approved by the 1971 General Service Conference. This was officially approved in 1971. We're going to learn more about, like, those, we'll learn more about the numbers right away. I got Grok helping with this too, because, concept 1, final responsibility and ultimate authority for AA World Services should always reside in the collective conscience of our whole fellowship. And that's like the basic structure of everything is no one governs. No one person governs. It's group conscience at every level. It's an upside down pyramid. There's no hierarchy. There is, however, in these structures, there's going to be business that has to happen, and there's going to be people more experienced within that business that has to happen. So, I'm guessing in the 12 concepts, it's going to be a little bit different because it's not boots on the ground in a meeting. Well, boots on the ground, I guess, would be your individual recovery and the steps and dragging people into the meetings and going out and taking this and evangelistically rescuing more. Because that's how it started. Is this book saved me? Like, this book just, everybody spread off, and they had this, and they could save people. And in doing so, they saved themselves. But that would be the boots on the ground, I guess. And then, like, the meetings, which are 12 traditions. Yeah, so your personal recovery, just said it right there in the concepts we just read. Personal recovery is that book, and the first edition didn't even have the traditions in it. First edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, they didn't go through the hard won experience. They didn't have the meetings so widespread and then almost die from all the learned experience of the bad stuff that could happen to it. And then they created those 12 rules. So the 12 rules of AA are for the meetings, which are also in this book now, in the 4th edition. They put them in the 2nd edition, and then they're on. And then the 12 concepts, when it spread worldwide, the 12 concepts apparently were developed quite a bit later. So it all just went it wasn't pre-thought. It developed over time to fit the world as, because they couldn't have just like created this structure and then made the world fit with it. They had to develop it as they see the world need. Like, we had to work with the world instead of the world working with us, because that's killed many programs prior. So it's developed really good. And then you got Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, crystal meth, sex addicts, gamblers, all that. They all adopted the structure from Alcoholics Anonymous, and now I'm just kind of having a realization that they adopted AA structure with the permission of AA World Service, because AA did go through that hard-won experience, from boots on the ground to meetings springing up everywhere, and then AA was going to die collectively if they didn't put 12 rules to govern the meetings. So they figured out those, they tested, they made it happen, they made it work, and then it spread worldwide. Then they needed the 12 concepts, and they had to figure that out. So instead of like Narcotics Anonymous going through all that and then being in opposition to AA, they adopted their structure. And then it doesn't look stupid all over the world. They've adopted the structure. The rest of the world will understand that this is kind of a subset of this. And it probably just all played together so well that they just used AA structure. So if you want to know anything about NA, Narcotics Anonymous, or Cocaine Anonymous, or crystal meth, or anything, you have to learn about AA. With CA and CMA, it's pretty obvious because they still use the AA's big book, and it does tell you that it's given CA permission to do so. CMA, I'm not entirely sure. I got pretty defeated with that program, so I'm staying away from it. There was a lot of good people, but it's unfortunate. Anyways, if you want to know anything about Narcotics Anonymous, you have to learn about Alcoholics Anonymous. There is no, this program is better than that. They are designed for different things, like different subset of things with the common goal. They're in collaboration. They're not against each other. They're very much in collaboration. If you don't believe me about that, people in Narcotics Anonymous, just go up to your poster in your meeting where it says 12 steps, 12 traditions. Read the very bottom of it. It will tell you it's adopted with the permission of AA. When you're reading your pamphlets, or when you're reading your readings before your meeting, look at the bottom. It'll tell you adopted with the permission of AA. And that if you're in Narcotics Anonymous and you're going to read the traditions, the 12 traditions, and they didn't cross out the most important part, if your meeting hasn't put in a cardboard over the most important part right after the 12 traditions, tradition, after the tradition 12, if that meeting doesn't all collectively say that last part of tradition 12 as it's like the end of it, and you continue reading like you're supposed to, like you're actually, apparently they're not allowed to be altering the Narcotics Anonymous approved literature like that. If it is crossed out with a pen or with whatever and they don't have a fucking cardboard right over top, read that. Just read it. Even if they're not going to let you, just hold on to it and finish reading it after you're done reading the 12. And it will say these 12 traditions were formulated through a hard-won experience our predecessors had to face. And that's talking about AA. The hard-won experience AA had to face. They went through trials and tribulations to get, like, extreme trials and tribulations to get those developed properly through that hard-won experience. And the 12 concepts, I'm not entirely sure, but where were we? We're gonna. Okay, so I asked Grok which pages out of this would be the most relevant for it, and it said page 223 is a good starting place to 225 about. 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon. The following section portrays the high points of St. Louis Convention and the culmination of 20 years of AA. The General Service Conference of AA is seated on the auditorium stage. Bernard Smith, chairman of AA's Boards of Trustees, introduces Bill, who reads the resolution by which he and AA's old-timers delivered their 20-year stewardship of our society into the hands of elected representatives. I guess to give a bit of context, something that I was reading just a little earlier is the founders of AA still had they still had the overall say until the 12 concepts. The 12 concepts, I think they officially gave the General Service Office and Collective Conscience the official, like they handed the stick to the Collective Conscience. I think that's what also the 12 concepts are. Is like they knew that the founders they had to pass the stick off. They ensured the recovery, the survival of AA, and when it seemed probably sturdy enough, they're like, okay, well, let's give this to the group conscience. We're not dictating. They didn't dictate, I guess. It was still a group conscience, but it was the founders who ensured their survival. And then experience these 12 concepts, I think. So I already learned a lot about it just this morning. Bernard Smith, I now declare the 5th Annual Conference of General Service Conference in session. We have completed in 4 days all the tasks that have been allowed to us, save only one, that is the adoption of the resolution authorizing the General Service Conference to its co-founders. I think that's what it's talking about here. Only this conference, in humility, has the power within the concepts of AA to adopt this resolution, and only after it has experience of the acceptance by all of AA in this convention here assembled, I propose therefore to call upon Bill to read this resolution and then ask the conference to observe the action of the convention thereon. And then ask the conference to observe the action of the convention thereon. And when the convention has acted, I will then call upon the conference to carry it into effect within the body of its principles and traditions, the action of this convention. This sounds like court, but I guess it would kind of have to be. The conference will remain convened and will adjourn simultaneously with the adjournment of the convention. And now Bill will be good enough to read the resolution, and then, if you will, sense the feeling of the convention so that the conference will be in a position to act. It says, Bill, we stand on the brink of a momentous decision. It is one of the most solemn hours in which this society will ever live, for we are about to confirm its permanent structure. Yeah, okay, so it about to confirm the permanent structure, and I'm pretty sure that's as it relates to the 12 concepts. So maybe the 12 concepts also encompass like the legality that you can't fuck with the program, and the 12 concepts might be like everything that backs that up. This might be I'm trying not to trash thing. I'm trying not to go into that negative mindset, but but it's probably inevitable the more I'm learning, especially. But we're learning this together. This is not me already prior knowing stuff. This is me learning as we go. So I don't know. I'm gonna try and keep out of that mind frame. Now, we of AA. This is still Bill W. We of AA are apt sometimes to brag of the virtuous of our fellowship. Of the virtues of our fellowship. Let us remind that none of these are earned virtues. We've been forced into them to begin with the cruel lash of John Barleycorn. John Barleycorn. It was a common phrase back in the day, I guess. We were reading, there's the stories in the back of the book. There's a book that has all the ones they pulled out of the other editions, and they say John Barleycorn a lot back in the 30s and 40s and stuff to reference alcohol. We've adopted these attitudes, these practices, this structure, not at first because we wished to, but because we had to. And then, as time confirmed the seeming rightness of our basic principles, we began to conform because it was right to do so. Some of us, notably myself, conformed even then with reluctance. Yeah, but at last, I think we have come to a summit here today where we stand willing to conform permanently and gladly to the principles which we experience under the grace of God has taught us. Yeah, so what he's saying there too is like Bill W. himself was one of the hardest people to convince to go along with a lot of this structure. He didn't agree with much of it, but he wanted to keep experimenting with AA, and so it was Bill W. who was pioneering the whole we should pay people to do the 12 steps, because he knew the flow of the money that was coming into AA. He's like, we should be paying people to teach these steps and all this, and then they figured out with a hard-won experience that is the wrong thing to do. But like, he wanted to try. He just wanted to experiment. He loved coming up and creating and developing new. It does sound like me and him are a lot alike in that regard, like the creativity within him. And I mean, I'm posting daily reflection videos just because if I'm creating, like it was a couple of years ago now, and I was just started my content creation, and I just started making daily reflection videos and just for today videos and stuff, and I just love creating. So it definitely kept me sober. It gave, like, I was I was out of town for work and I wasn't able to get to meetings, but I was creating a daily reflection video a day, and it felt like in doing so was still like a meeting. So yeah, I get a lot out of adding value, I guess, or it is value. Fuck it, I gotta allow myself to feel that it is actual value. Anyways, so yeah, like he just wanted to keep creating and creating and creating. He was one of the hardest. He was one of the biggest thorn in their ass when they were developing all this shit. But it's the group conscience. He knew it himself. He tried to go up against it all the time. He's like, fuck that. That's like, we gotta try this. We gotta do that. But like his innovation is why a lot of it did like get to where we are. And like they were opposing all the time. And a lot of the things that he did come up with, they rolled with. They had to. They realized, like, yeah, I mean, we gotta let, he's on point with this one, but on this one, he's getting a little carried away. So yeah, they had to shut him down for trying to like turn it into a profession. Because in today's day and age, we're proving exactly why not, why you shouldn't. But they already learned that back then. The moment that they paid one person to do it, the next person's like, well, I'm not doing it for free, and that will snowball. So, and that would literally kill the program, literally kill it. If people are getting paid to do it and others aren't, the going rate of the human mentality is, why the fuck am I doing it for free? When it's not, it shouldn't be. Why do I have to do it for free when he gets paid? It's in recovery, it should be flipped. It's we get to do it, and in doing so, it saves our own lives. And that helps us become better people. It's a really beautiful structure, but if you add that personal if you add that personal selfish gain to it, it starts making you go on the opposite end of what it was meant to do. And they did figure that out the hard way, because Bill was a pain in the ass. He wanted to try everything. Anyways, okay, so still Bill reading. Some of us may think that, structurally speaking, we are quite unique, but this is not entirely so. Our principles of recovery are borrowed, and so are most of our structural ideas. In AA, we can see many of the means by which men and women over the centuries have tried to unite themselves, and each of these techniques of association has its assets and its liabilities. So what he's saying there is many of us think that, structurally speaking, we are quite unique. Structurally speaking, he's talking about the program as a whole. Many of us think we are unique. And he says, but that's not entirely so. Our principles of recovery are borrowed. And what he means by that is the groups prior that had nothing to do with AA. A lot of people will tell you that the Oxford group and that other one are the beginning. They're not. They were failed attempts at something that was different. But AA borrowed some of what worked, and they borrowed concepts from that. They borrowed concepts from recovery programs that failed, but they borrowed what they figured they can use that were helpful. They borrowed psychology tactics from Carl Jung and stuff like that. They borrowed lost my train of thought. They borrowed from prior programs that failed. They borrowed from psychology like Carl Jung. They borrowed from obviously the structure of church. So I believe one of the biggest reasons why it is like extremely God formatted, even though it's meant to reach so much more than just people that believe in God, and it's not necessarily meant to convert people. If you were lacking God and you just needed that kickstart to help you get into it, then yeah, that's beautiful. But it also encompasses people that don't believe in God or have different religions. It's worldwide. Like, this version of God is not in a lot of the world that this book is. So like it's not meant to convert. What it is my belief of the spirit of the use of like the format of like us passing around the seventh tradition for the collection plate, if you will. It is quite literally the collection plate. That was also borrowed. They borrowed that structure. They borrowed the not-for-profit structure to keep government and influence out. they borrowed a lot from churches, and we literally like, well, no, the meeting sprung up on their own, I guess. So the meeting sprung up on their own. The reason why we're in churches and stuff like that is because churches offer cheap rent, and they're in a day and age like, not only do they offer cheap rent, a lot of religious people helped pioneer this. So we borrowed a lot of stuff from a lot of places, and that's what it's saying there. Saying structurally speaking, we are not unique. We think structurally speaking we're quite unique, but that's not entirely so. So yeah, it's a collaboration of many ideas. Now, okay, and when we first come into AA, we find here, as we have observed before, a greater personal freedom than any other society knows. That's kind of what I was just talking about. We cannot be compelled to do anything. In that sense, this society is a benign anarchy. The word anarchy has a bad meaning to most of us, probably because one of its excitable adherents long ago threw bombs around in Chicago. But I think that the gentle Russian prince who so strongly advocated the idea felt that if men were granted absolute liberty and were compelled to obey no one in person, they would then voluntarily associate themselves in a common interest. Alcohol. Hey, that's kind of cool. I never really thought of it like that. If men were granted absolute liberty and were compelled to obey no one in person, they would then voluntarily associate themselves in a common interest. If you think about it, that is like tribal. I mean, well, it does eventually. Everything in human history does eventually get like leader and dictatorship, but it starts with just common interest. That's kind of cool. Alcoholics Anonymous, an association of the benign sort the prince envisioned. This kind of association among us is wonderful and free and simple and joyous. So far, so good. But we have found that this is not enough. When we had to go into action to function as groups, we found that we had to become a democracy. Yeah. As the old-timers retired, we began to elect our servants by majority vote. Each group, in the sense, became a town meeting democracy. Now, when we first put our world service into effect, Dr. Bob and I, our old-time friends, were self-appointed guardians and custodians of this society. We took it upon ourselves to provide services. I do not mean it in any irreverent or exaggerated sense when I say that our setup of those days was a sort of a double-handed papacy and a college of cardinals. Structurally, we had created a hierarchy of service. Yeah, so structurally we had created a hierarchy of service. That's where, yeah, I was getting a little confused with that when I just read that they gave up it, in the 12 concepts. They gave up that hierarchy. Maybe that's the main point of them, is like, so Bill W. and Dr. Bob and a bunch of the co-founders did have the hierarchy dictation kind of thing going on, because they had to get it off the ground and make the world. Maybe that's the main point of the concepts, is that was them just straight up handing off the candle to the democracy. But we've learned that such a hierarchy cannot forever float alone. It must somehow be connected with the great sea of democracy all about it. The General Service Conference of Alcoholics Anonymous is now about to provide that permanent connection so much needed between our society and its trustees. But our conference will be more than a connection. It will represent the conscience of AA worldwide, to which our trustees will, in this very hour, become directly accountable. Yeah, so my concept on the 12 concept, trustees are the ones that are accountable to deal with the world at large. So it's pretty cool. I love learning about this shit. It's really cool how it all began, and it's really heartbreaking how it's all going away. At least in Canada, at least in Alberta for sure. In AA, there is active still another form of association, a form of which the world is today in great doubt. It has its virtues, nevertheless, especially for us Alcoholics Anonymous. I am speaking of dictatorship. In AA, we have two dictators, and we profit and grow through both. One is John Barleycorn, alcohol, who is never very far from the elbow of each of us. The other is the Father of Lights, who presides over all men. God is saying to us, learn my will and do it. Okay, so that's a cool concept. Booze and God are the dictators of AA. And that kind of, that encompasses, that kind of like sums up how we do not have any dictation. The idea of God is to smash any one person's hierarchy. That's the main purpose of it. And whatever you get out of it personally, that's beautiful. But the main purpose of God, as it's associated to Alcoholics Anonymous as a whole, is to say that we do not dictate each other. And John Barleycorn is saying to each of us, you'd better do God's will or I will kill you. Perhaps it is something new for society to borrow from so many forms of human association, but clearly enough, we have borrowed from hierarchy, democracy, the republic, from anarchy, democracy, the republic, the hierarchy, and dictatorship. In order to get it off the ground, they had to do a bunch of it's not what it is today, but to start it out, I guess they had to do some of that. So this is the last page that they told me to read. That Grok told me to read anyways. No. We hope that we've avoided the liabilities of each, and we especially hope that we have inherited most of the assets of each. I pray with you that the resolution which we are about to propose is God's will for us. I shall now offer it to you and ask for a voice vote. If you agree, if your conscience says this is right to the best of my knowledge and belief, then your General Service Conference and its hierarchy of service at the center will confirm your will for all the long future of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is the resolution. So it's still saying hierarchy. Well, in a way, like, I don't know, maybe I did have, at the home group level though, no one dictates. But maybe we do have to still, I guess you do have to, if you're going to do anything that it says in the traditions, if you're going to do anything. So, tradition 4, each group ought to be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. So, if you're going to do anything to try and help you, as long as you follow those 12 traditions, you can help your meeting grow in any way that passes through your democracy. So, if you have ideas, bring it to your home group. If you have ideas that may possibly help a meeting grow and get more people from the general public, bring it to your home group. Have a vote, see if you can test it out. Just even ask them, can we just try it? Like it doesn't have to be concrete. Can we just try these ideas? And the only thing that is not allowed in that structure of the autonomy to try and help your meeting grow, and you can use the 7th tradition for this all you want. Whatever overflow that you have, you should be using to try and get more people there before you send it up the line. Because if you are not making sure your meeting survives by bringing more population and saving more alcoholics, then you're not going to have money later on to send up the line anyway, so it's irrelevant. So use your 7th tradition to make sure that your meeting survives and bring ideas to it and have that vote. See if you can test new stuff. That's what it's all about. And in tradition 4, so long as you don't affect other groups around you and or AA as a whole, so the other groups around you, as long as you are not getting in competition where, like, to affect other groups around you. If you are doing something that will basically promote you as opposed to other home groups, you're not allowed to do that. You can promote AA as a whole, and in doing so will bring more. Population brings population. So if you have ideas that will promote AA as a whole that you guys can specifically do with your home group as boots on the ground, that's beautiful. Bring it to your home group. See if you can try and do shit. We need new ideas. We're really suffering in Alberta right now. We need new ideas. So long as you do not affect other groups or AA as a whole. So don't do anything that's going to, like, basically make you appear as if better than another home group in your in your area. And then as long as it doesn't affect AA as a whole, as in confirm with all the long future Alcoholics Anonymous. This is best knowledge of belief. General Service Congress hierarchy at the center. Oh yeah, so and that's what it is. And if you feel like it may greatly affect AA as a whole, you might also want to bring it talk to World Service about that. If your idea gets off the ground and you are really, yeah, you talk to World Service about that. It probably maybe, I bet you, even if it affects positively. So if you're doing something with your home group that is positively affecting at a grand scale, something you try new, you probably also bring it to World Service so they can either, I'm not sure, we're probably going to learn this in these, but probably so they can help you perfect it without like breaking any tradition, so they can adopt it and help other home groups try it out if it's working really good. I bet you that's the whole point of it. And then, yeah, so long as it's not affecting other groups or AA as a whole, but if it does affect them positively, you probably want to bring it to World Service so they can help guide with it, and they can help like ensure that it's done proper, and then they can help spread it to the world. That's the whole point of it. We're not a dictatorship. We're all everyone has value to bring, and if you're not an ideas guy, that's fine. Just stop silencing those who are, because you're insecure or you have that financial agenda. Just stop. This is good for all of us. This is good for everyone. If you have loved ones in addiction, those are the people we're supposed to be trying to get there. We just don't know how to navigate that today because of all this stupid bullshit. I don't want to digress into that because I'll get angry, but ideas are the most important thing. Otherwise, none of it would be there. But none of this, everything around you, without human innovation, we'd have none of it. It's the most important thing for human survival is ideas, especially in a complacent dictatorship like we've developed today. We need new ideas. And you test them. You bring them to your home group. You vote. If that vote happens, then you try it. I've said in posts before, and this one is really important because I've been trying to help people understand that we need to bring ideas to the meeting to vote. That's what they're for. It's not so you can sit there and this guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about, and that guy's going to argue with that guy. That's not what they're for. They're for collaboration. It's not for fucking confrontation. It's for collaboration. So you go to those meetings and you figure out what works best. You try it out. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But at least you're trying. That's the whole point. You'll get so much out of your recovery for doing shit like that. And to reference how this is possible and a need and a must, and one person's fucking voice can make a big difference. AA in my home group in Grand Prairie, I started the raise your hand for sponsorship. It was not a thing anywhere. I didn't even want to do it. I did it out of arrogance. But nobody wanted to, nobody had a clue. Everybody thought, it's like this hierarchical thing. I would go to this home group, and the business, there would be somebody from another business or somebody from another home group. They would be there trying to teach us how to do our business. And I'm like, why is that person here telling us what to do? Like, this is our fucking meeting. As long as we're following these 12 traditions, we are supposed to come up with the ways of doing this, not somebody else telling us what to do according to their personal concept. Because the structure of recovery is not dictation, and it's not a real cut and dry only one way to do it. Otherwise, none of it would work, and it couldn't spread worldwide. The power of it is it does work for each individual, the steps, and it does work for each meeting. It gives you enough freedom to develop bigger and better ways. If you go to meetings and they're doing things different than other meetings, it's because those traditions give you the freedom to do so. So when people are telling you how to do your meeting, they're fucking wrong. And if they're not a part of your home group, tell them to get the fuck out of there. So at my home group, I'm like, why is that person here every business meeting? Why did they show up at our business meeting? I know their home group. I know what they're involved in. They're only ever here during our business. They don't even come to support. Why the fuck are they here? Well, it's because there's the longest time that we had, it was like the baby meeting of AA, but that's why I liked it. The most clean time the one guy had was 13 years or something, or sober time. But what it was is the structure of your meeting needs to grow and develop. Otherwise, if you're not growing, you're dying, and that's with anything. That's an existence thing. If you don't grow, you're dying. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. We don't stay just moot. That doesn't happen. If you're not going up, you're going down. If you ain't growing, you're dying. If you ain't getting better, you're getting worse. So when I mentioned at the meeting, I'm like, Kate, well, next business meeting, we're going to tell people only people who are home group are here. And then I told him, I was like, we need to start coming up with new ideas. Like, otherwise, I'm not even going to be a part of this. This is so boring. I'm not here to show up, sit down, and have you, who you didn't even know a goddamn thing 2 years ago, tell everybody how things are getting done. Like, where the fuck is your head from? Why are you doing that? You are the first time in recovery. Like, yeah, I was in and out, but I was in and out toxically for a long time. I was like, you've first time you walked through those doors was 2 years ago, and now you're trying to tell everybody how to do it. That's not how this works. We're here to collaborate. So when I got that off, and then I was like, I'll give you guys an example. I had so much ideas I wanted to try, but I knew that they would not deny this one. It's like, and I referenced, because one guy, he was really wanting to sponsor people, and he was having a hard time because the structure of the treatment centers bringing in newcomers, and like these guys who went through the steps with the sponsor, who aren't a part of the treatment center complex, even up in Grand Prairie, he was really he really wanted sponsees, and he didn't know how to get sponsees because he wanted to move on to his next level of recovery, which was beautiful. And I was like, okay, well, I'm an ideas guy. It's like, I can help him solve that problem. And so I was like, it may not solve his problem right away, but I know what will help that problem grand scale. And I was like, how about at the end of the meeting, we say anybody who is willing to sponsor, who has done a set of steps and willing to sponsor, identify yourself by standing or raising your hand. And then we had to test a few ways on what was the best. And at the end of it, it was just raise your hand and figure out where to put it at the end of the meeting for it to be like more powerful or whatever. So it was really uncomfortable but it was I created it. But because I was mentioning, so he was definitely on board. He's like, yeah, man, let's do that. So like we had our business meeting, fucking love it. But then for a while, everybody thought it was retarded. Everybody that was coming to it, they're like shaking their head, and they're all like, their hands are down. The reason actually why I created that though is because it was out of arrogance and ignorance. I was being a dick with it though. I just wanted people to shut the fuck up. Like, the only thing I heard for 3 months solid, and it started flowing into people who haven't even done the steps, is like how sponsorship's so important, and I'm so important because I've been a sponsor and all this. And I'm like, well, you guys are going to start putting your hands up or shut the fuck up, because I'm not listening to this anymore. That's not experience, strength, and hope. You're just in here trying to make yourself look better than each other. If you're not going to do it, then shut the fuck up. So I threw that idea out there. It came from a toxic place, but it also was going to benefit this guy and recovery as a whole. And by the time I came down to Calgary, it was already here spread. And I asked somebody, I was like, when did that start? And I was like, was it about 2 years ago? She's like, yeah, it was almost exactly. I was like, yeah, it spread fast. Like that traveled fast. So that's what happens in these rooms. If you bring ideas and it works, they travel fast. Unfortunately, well, I'm not going to get into the dangers of what I caused, but it's just things were going to happen anyways. That is a powerful thing. I do like to clarify that it was not me that come up with raise your hand if you're looking for a sponsor. The old timers of Grand Prairie told me over and over and over that you, like, because I talk to people, I love talking to people with like true recovery experience, and like not people like the people that are very humble. They just, they're showing up, they're kind of observing what it's turning into, and they're trying to help it in very humble ways, where me, I'm like chaotic and I want to get in your face and want to be like, we need to fucking solve this, we need to do that. So they loved my inspiration. They know where I'm at. They were there at one point in time too, but they've just been in the rooms for so long. These are actual old timers who are not dictated by a financial agenda, who are there because they love recovery. And they would tell me that the sponsors aren't supposed to hunt sponsees, because my mind can conclude exactly why. That's a very obvious, very easy obvious, is somebody who's trying to sponsor someone else that's control. If you are like going to somebody else and you want to sponsor them without having context of who they are, you're just trying to control. And so I didn't create the raise your hand if you're looking for a sponsor. That was not me. That was quite the opposite of what I was trying to do. That was almost literally the opposite of what I was trying to do. I was just trying to. I was trying to shut the fucking guys up for one, but I was also trying to help this other guy get his sponsees. But the reason why you're supposed to do 90 meetings in 90 days, one of the biggest reasons these old timers were telling me is like, you're supposed to be there sponsor shopping. You're not supposed to just pick any guy. You're supposed to fucking go to many meetings. If you hear somebody share that makes sense to you, then go to meetings and hear him share again in a different like, really pick your sponsor proper. It could be a friend for the rest of your life. So they would say 90 meetings in 90 days, so you can hear the difference between people's shares and figure out who is a good fit for a sponsor. You're supposed to be sponsor shopping 90 meetings in 90 days. That's the main purpose. Is like, don't even fucking worry about the steps. For the first 90 meetings that you go to, just kind of keep your ears open for who may be your sponsor. Not go and share your experience so fucking 20 people can try and hunt you or whatever, because that's not helpful. That's not healthy. And they also said back in the old days, like, these old timers, they fucking hate, sorry, I'm going on, but whatever. The old timers, they hated the meeting lists in the rooms. They hated the meeting lists that you send around and everybody writes their number. Like, because they're like, who the fuck even uses those? Like, I talked to these guys quite a bit, because I didn't care about popularity. I wanted to know I wanted to talk to the guys who know what the fuck is going on, who built recovery, who's still there this fucking long later with the same people that they were in recovery when they first walked through those doors. How they were able to stay united. That is what I wanted to know. How are these guys still best friends? Like, this entire group of people, guys and like men and women, this entire group of people, how are they still so hopeful and so excited to show up to those meetings once a week? Because when they've been there that long, they're not there every day. They're there once a week. Their home groups develop. That's what they're doing. They're there for their home group. They've been there a long time. But how are they still here this long after? Still going to the same home group with the same people and trying to spread the message? That's what I wanted to know. Not trying to be cool and fucking whatever. I went through that phase, though, I guess. Like, when you first get to recovery, you're going to go through the, oh yeah, that guy looks cool. Hey, he looks like a thug. Hey, you know. But, anyways, I trailed the fuck off. So what I'm saying is, bring ideas. Bring ideas to your home group. It's really important. And how do I know that? Because the Raise Your Hand for Sponsorship was created by yours truly in Alberta. I don't know if it was anywhere else in the world, but it happened about 2.5 years ago. I think. Or wait. Would it be when I first came to Calgary? Yeah, it was roughly about 2.5 years ago they started doing the Raise Your Hand for Sponsorship. Because I'm coming up on 3 years clean and sober now, and when I started that in AA, I was still on house arrest, so that was in my first 6 months. Yeah. Of this goal, anyways. But, so yeah, the Raise Your Hand for Sponsorship, it's roughly about 2.5 years, somewhere in there, plus or minus. And it came from AA in Grand Prairie. And that's the group conscience. They could have said no, but my purpose behind it, I did want to shut most of the people up because I was tired of listening to the same thing, getting no progress, no hope, no innovation, just dick swinging. And then also I wanted to help him because I knew he really, really just wanted his next level of recovery, and he didn't know how to achieve it. So I was like, well, let's figure something out. Anyways, all right. So still Bill W. This is the resolution. We, the members of the 20th anniversary convention of Alcoholics Anonymous here assembled at St. Louis in July of the year 1955, declare our belief that our fellowship has now come of age and is entirely ready to assume full and permanent possession of the 3 legacies of our AA inheritance, the legacies of recovery, unity, and service. We believe that the General Service Conference of Alcoholics Anonymous, as created in 1951 by our co-founders Dr. Bob S. and Bill W., and authorized by trustees of the Alcoholic Foundation, has now become entirely capable of assuming the guardianship of AA's 12 traditions and of taking over full guidance and control of the world service of our society, as provided in the 3rd Legacy Manual of World Service, recently revised by our serving co-founder Bill W. and the General Service Board of Alcoholics Anonymous. So you hear right there what they said? entirely capable of assuming the guardianship of AA's 12 traditions. It didn't say 12 steps. The 12 steps are your personal recovery. You do them however the fuck you need to do them. They're in a book. You adopt them. You spread them. Do what you need to do with them. They're suggestive only because they are not a physical structure. They're not they're not a structure you can necessarily break. Well, you can. I don't know. It's a weird concept, but they work for everyone worldwide because they are suggestive only. Now, the traditions are for your home group, 12 rules for your home group. And that's why they adopted, authorized, entirely capable of assuming the guardianship of AA's 12 traditions. The guardianship, they need to guard 12 rules. The 12 steps, you do them how you need to do them. Your sponsor is going to teach you how to do them so you can help your sponsee do them. And that's kind of the flow of it. But they're suggestive only. 12 traditions, not negotiable. We've also heard with approval Bill W's proposal that AA's General Service Conference should now become the permanent successor to the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous, inheriting from them all their former duties and special responsibilities, thus avoiding in future time all possible strivings for individual prestige or personal power, and also providing our society with the means of functioning on a permanent basis. Be it, therefore, resolved that the General Service Conference of Alcoholics Anonymous should become, as of this date, July 3rd, 1955, the guardian of the 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous, the perpetrator of the world services of our society, the voice of the group conscience of our entire fellowship, and the sole successors to its co-founders, Dr. Bob and Bill. As I understood it, it said not to read onto here, but we may as well because there's a little bit extra. That neither the 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous nor the warranties of Article XII of the conference charter shall ever be changed or amended by the General Service Conference, except by first asking the consent of the registered AA groups of the world. These groups shall be suitably notified of any proposal for change, and shall be allowed no less than 6 months for consideration thereof. And before any such conference action be taken, there must first be received in writing within the time allotted the consent of at least 3/4 of all those registered groups who respond to such a proposal. So that right there just encapsulated the whole entire, this ain't a dictatorship, this is group conscience. Finally, I got some context on how that runs. If there's anything that's going to actually change, so Tradition 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting AA, other groups, or AA as a whole. And then in the long form, it does say, if you're going to affect AA, other groups or AA as a whole, if you're going to affect AA as a whole, you must confer to your General Service Office. What it's saying here is, if there is some sort of, say you come up with a good idea, and that good idea has proven successful, and you want to bring it to World Service, and say, hey, can we add this into structure? Then World Service sends it out to every registered home group, and it needs over 3/4. It needs over 75% of all those home groups to agree, or it's not passed. And that's how the collective conscience works. Finally got some context on how that works. And it's all here, it's all fucking here. It's just, it does take quite a bit to understand, so I'm helping people understand, and I've learned a lot this morning, so I'm actually really excited to do this shit. And it needs a mind like mine that has all this understanding on where we are going wrong so we can fix it. Now, treatment centers adopting and literally destroying the 12 traditions in every mind in Alberta. I doubt that was passed by 70% of every Alcoholics Anonymous group across the world. I highly doubt it was brought to anybody. I doubt they brought any sort of consideration that they are going to adopt AA, destroy the traditions, rewrite them, mix it with fucking Al-Anon toxic selfish ideology. Al-Anon has its purpose. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say it doesn't. But when you're mixing it into addictions recovery, that purpose is ass fucking backwards. Now, treatment centers have adopted, I didn't want to go into this, but this is really important. They've adopted, or not, they've dictated, stolen, fraudulently rewritten, because this is legal, actually legally protected, fraudulently rewritten the 12 traditions within these treatment centers. I know for a fact. You can't find it online because the government doesn't have oversight. They're not even allowed to look into these fucking treatment centers in Calgary. In Recovery Alberta, the government's not even allowed to look into what they're doing. They don't know who they're kicking out. They don't know who they're keeping in. All they know is they're keeping those beds full. They are raping this program from the inside out. And I doubt that it's been going on for a long time, but I've never heard once that there was a fucking vote that we are going to allow treatment centers to change the traditions. Actually, it's obvious that's not a thing. That can't be a fucking thing. It's a very clear, obvious impossibility. But it's what's happening today. It's every mind in Alberta is so fucking corrupt because of it. No one has the first clue on what the traditions are for. Not even the first clue, even though we pass around that 7th tradition. They think the 7th tradition means you are supposed to be self-supporting. You need no one but God. And then they send that fucking money collection around. Like, how are you not even just remotely curious on that concept? Anyway. And that's, hence the whole, I didn't know all this shit was going on. I just knew it was fucked up from day one in Grand Prairie. I'm like, what is going on? Something's not right here. And I've been having to learn the long, hard way to fucking make extreme change, I hope. I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to do something. Anyways, this is exactly explaining everything that's going wrong and the structure that is verifying they're not allowed to be doing what they're doing. Alright, it says, and we further understand that as provided in Article XII of the Conference Charter, the Conference blinds itself to the Society of Alcoholics Anonymous by the following means: that in all its proceedings the General Service Conference shall observe the spirit of the AA tradition, taking great care that the conference never becomes the seat of perilous wealth or power, that sufficient operating funds plus an ample reserve be its prudent financial principle, that none of the conference members shall ever be placed in a position of unqualified authority over any of the others, that all important decisions be reached by decision vote and whether possible by substantial unanimity, that no conference action ever be personally punitive or an incitement to public controversy, that though the conference may act in the service of Alcoholics Anonymous and may traditionally direct its world services, it shall never enact laws or regulations binding on AA as a whole, or upon any AA group, or upon any member thereof, nor shall it perform any such acts of government, and that, like the Society of Alcoholics Anonymous, which it serves, the conference itself will always remain democratic in thought and action. Okay, so that's where we're going to stop there. Yeah, there's a lot of information in this. Fuck. I guess these ones are going to be long too. I was just going to hammer it out quick. And then I'm going to show you guys something real quick. Just all this is important to show you guys. This isn't me. Like, I didn't come up with this shit. Okay, so I don't have the pamphlet that I did for the 12 traditions, but I found it here. We're just going to go through it real quick. I'm responsible when anyone anywhere reaches out for help. I want the hand of AA always to be there, and for that I am responsible. That comes from 12 Concepts for World Service, the Declaration of Unity. This we owe to AA's future, to place our common welfare first, to keep our fellowship united, for AA unity depends on our lives and our lives of those to come. And lives of those to come. And it also says, okay, so 12 Concepts for World Service. This pamphlet is about 12 concepts. It's not the concepts themselves. They are found in the book, the AA Service Manual, 12 Concepts for World Service, and should be read by every trusted servant. I should probably go find that book. As AA grew up, it began with the groups, first only a few, then hundreds, and then thousands. Very early, an alcoholic foundation, later renamed the General Service Board, was performed to be responsible for our affairs. And with Dr. Bob's death and Bill's facing up to his own mortality. A General Service Conference assumed the leadership, which had fallen to the co-founders. Meanwhile, a tiny publishing operation and service office had grown in size and importance to the fellowship, and a monthly journal, the AA Grapevine, was being published. Which of these entities was supposed to do what? Little wonder there was confusion. What was their relationship? Who was in charge? What were their responsibilities? And what were their rights? Bill W. himself was sometimes part of the polling and hauling that took place, and he saw the need to reduce to writing his concepts on the why of the whole structure, the lesson to be drawn from experience, the relationships, and above all, the spiritual principles. As Bill set them down, the 12 concepts are potpourri, concept 3 through 5, and then 4 and maybe 5, 6, and 7. Deal with spiritual principles. The reminder, though they have spiritual overtones, and devoted to describing the relationship of the various service entities and how they work together. What follows in the pamphlet is an illustration introduction to the 12 concepts. If it answers a guidance you are seeking, if it is answers or guidance you are seeking, go to the concepts themselves. Throughout this pamphlet, wording from the 12 concepts themselves, subject to editing for clarity, is indicated by quotation marks. The rest of the text is either descriptive or explanatory. Concept 1. Final responsibility and ultimate authority for AA World Service should always reside in the collective conscience of our whole fellowship. And that's what we just discussed on how, like, it has to pass 75% of every home group if any big change happens to Alcoholics Anonymous. Again, I doubt the treatment centers fucking asked, hey, can we start mixing everything and fucking can we rape your program and then all of us profit on it so we can turn this perpetual AA killing cycle happening in Calgary? And I say Calgary, but it's Alberta wide. It's Recovery Alberta. Alcoholics Anonymous has been called an upside-down organization because the ultimate responsibility and final authority for world service resides with the groups, rather than the trustees of the General Service Board or the General Service Office in New York. That's how the AA groups, the group conscience, and the world conscience encapsulates all the groups. In Concept 1, Bill traces how this came to be. The first step in 1938 was the creation of a trusteeship, first called the Alcoholic Foundation, renamed in 1954 the General Service Board. Why? To perform the services the group could not do for themselves. Example, uniform literature, uniform public information about AA, helping new groups get started, sharing with them the experience of established groups, handling pleas for help, publishing a national magazine, and carrying the message in other languages and in other countries. A service office was formed to carry on these functions under the board's directions. Both the board and the office looked to the co-founder, Bill and Bob, for policy leadership. In the mindsets of the exuberant success of early AA, Dr. Bob became fatally ill, and Bill asked, when Dr. Bob and I are gone, who will then advise the trustees in the office? The answer, Bill felt, was to be found in the collective conscience of the AA groups. But how could the autonomous, widely scattered groups exercise such a responsibility? See, it's upside down. The world will never understand. That's the picture. Over great resistance by trustees and members devoted to the status quo, Bill managed to sell the idea of calling a AA General Service Conference, and 11 years later, Bill was able to declare the results of the conference has exceeded our highest expectations. The concept is rooted in Tradition 2, which states, for our group purpose, there's but one ultimate authority, 11 guys who may express themselves in our group conscience are leaders, but trusted servants, they do not govern. That, again, Tradition 2 is not saying God, it's saying no one governs. They're just blanket statement in God. They're saying if you need somebody to guide you, ask God. You're not fucking dictating people. The principles of Tradition 2 are crystal clear, Bill asserts. The AA groups are to be the final authority. Their leaders are to be entrusted with delegate responsibilities only. The outside world cannot imagine an organization run this way, but Bill calls it a spiritual society characterized by enough enlightenment, enough responsibility, and enough love of man and of God to ensure that our democracy of world service will work. And then, oh, cool. Oh, sweet. Yeah, here's your upside down pyramid. That's why I've heard that. I've heard it before. I've been fucking saying it for a while. I don't even know where I heard it. So now I'm gonna be stealing that for sure. The groups, the district, the assembly, the world service, and the laws. Yeah. And fucking ta-da. Tomorrow we're gonna do concept 2 and we're gonna dive into it. So I thought it was not gonna be, well, I kind of assumed it would be relevant to what I've been saying about treatment centers and shit here. This is going to help me understand how I bring it to light, whether it gets to world service with me doing this, or if I got to go directly to it myself. But I'm hoping this reaches somebody that knows what the fuck they're doing, because it's not just it's not just one meeting that's going wrong. It's an organization that is government funded, that government can't have oversight. They're not even allowed to look into what they're doing. I figured that out. So this Recovery Alberta is it's an industrial complex that's government funded, that's raping AA, manipulating everybody's idea out of the traditions, turning every person who is involved in recovery into a paid idiot to follow their dipshit mentality that is dictated by a financial agenda who needs addicts to actually sustain their addiction, or that entire industry collapses. It's not there to help. It's there to reserve and appear as if they're helping. It's there to ensure people, it's there to ensure addiction. Like, again, if McDonald's sold a burger that cured your hunger, they would go out of business overnight. So this is an issue. It's a big fucking issue. And if they stayed the fuck out of these programs, I would have nothing to bitch about. But we are going to put an end to it one way or some fucking how. Anyways, tune in tomorrow and we're going to do concept 2. I got to do a lot of fucking research on this shit. Maybe I need to go find that book. But, yeah, and I made some daily reflection videos. You can check them out. They're kind of neat. I'm posting one a day. They're already created like 2 years ago.